Good evening, I'm Amy Blom. Welcome to the late news. The WA Police will lose 50 vehicles, including its high-performance Ford XR6T and the Holden SV6 cars, as part of the state government's order to reduce the fleet cost by 10%. Police Commissioner Carl Callaghan today announced the move, as well as the 12-month moratorium on acquisition of new vehicles to the force. While 50 vehicles will be taken from the range of the police profile in districts, the exact breakdown is still being finalized. Joining us now is our reporter Amy Blom, who is at the Murdoch police station. Amy, how many % of the police cars other officers are required to cut from their fleet?
Yes, Ivan. In late August this year, WA Police Executive Director Greg Italiano said the force had been told it would have to reduce its 1,400 vehicles by 10% to combat growing cost pressures to the vehicle fleet.
So what would the WA Police do in an attempt to reduce the costs required by the State Treasury?
Well, Ivan, what the WA Police will do is to increase the number of four-cylinder vehicles in the police fleet by a further 10% to 40%. It also includes cease leasing of the more expensive Ford XR6T and Holden SV6 models in favour of the less powerful and less expensive Ford XT and Commodore Omega police packs. Extend the lease period for some vehicles subject to inspection regimes. And finally, to analyse appropriate types of vehicles for specific locations with a view to save money so the long operational policing requirements are maintained. And that's it from now. Back to Ivan in the studio.
Thank you very much indeed, Amy. Moving on with the bulletin now, the UN Development Programme recently came out with a report looking at some of the inequalities worldwide. The report has ranked countries and regions based on a number of factors, including Gini coefficient, which was named behind the Italian statistician Cora Gini. The Business Week magazine have did an investigation based on the world's most advanced economies, with 0 to absolute equality to 100% absolute inequality. The Scandinavian countries, Japan and Czech Republic, has the least amount of inequality. Although many people predicted that the USA is the most unequal, instead the city of Hong Kong is placed into the #1 slot in the inequality world rank.
Hong Kong is renowned for its high concentration of Rolls-Royce, expensive real estates, and post shops. The China's Special Administrative Region has plenty of rich who enjoy showing off their wealth. However, Hong Kong is also one of the largest public housing sectors in the world, with about half of the population living in government-supported or subsidized housing estates. The city has no minimum wage except for domestic helpers from Philippines, Indonesia, and other countries. Number 2 is Singapore, because of one of the most open countries in the world, and it suffered badly following the bankruptcy of the Lehman Brothers last year. The third comes USA, and Australia ends up number 9 in the top 11 ranking.
While the development economy elsewhere is heading down towards recession, the lucky Aussies get the good fortune out of it. While Australia is continuing to grow thanks to taking part in strong demand from China for its resources. This month, the central bank raises interest rate, making Australia the first leading among other countries to move away from the global financial crisis. The British Prime Minister Gordon Brown has joined Barack Obama in welcoming President Hamid Karzai's agreement to his second ballot runoff in Afghanistan's disputed presidential election. Matt Waldron has the story.
Afghan President Hamid Karzai will face a runoff vote against challenger Abdullah Abdullah after neither candidate received more than 50% of votes in the August 20 first round, election officials said. The poll will go to a second round on November 7th. President Karzai hailed the runoff as a step forward for democracy in the troubled country. The new election date was announced after a UN-backed Afghan Complaints Commission confirmed staggering levels of fraud in the August 20 presidential vote, declaring more than 1 million ballots suspect. This is not the right time to discuss investigations. This is the time to move forward to stability and national unity, Mr. Karzai told a news conference. President Barack Obama has welcomed Mr. Karzai's agreement to a second round vote. Matt Waldron, DHK News.
Australia's Queensland state remains on alert as firefighters battle to contain the blaze. Emergency services say they have the majority of fires under control, but are warning residents to be prepared to evacuate their homes. The bushfire near Rockhampton in central Queensland caused most concern over the weekends, but looked to be contained. A fire at Lotters Creek scorched 70,000 hectares of land. while the outbreak of Mount Archer in National Park damaged 7,000. British NHS Hospital has begun vaccinating frontline healthcare workers and their patients who fall into the risk of category against swine flu. The vaccination program will be rolled out over the next 3 weeks, with GP surgeries receiving deliveries from next Monday. Around 2 million health and social care workers will be offered this treatment. This group is at an increased risk of infection and of transmitting that the infection sustainable patients. Protecting these people will help the NHS workforce to remain resilient and able to treat the sick patients. The scheme will be able to roll out then to include the risk groups like the pregnant women and pensioners. The U.S. Defense Secretary Robert Gates, who is in Japan, says the U.S. airbase in Okinawa must be remained there. Japan's new government has indicated it wants to move the base off the island, where the residents say American troops have caused too much noise and crime. But the U.S. says it would undermine an agreement made 3 years ago. The U.S. has now about 50,000 troops in Japan. And finally tonight, an amazing story about a pedestrian in Russia escaped from a bus that has lost its brakes and smashed into the other 19 cars in a busy intersection. The CCTV footage showed that pedestrian somehow managed to dash away from the bus that lost control seconds before he was swiped into the accident. Luckily, nobody is being killed or seriously wounded in this big traffic chaos. The victims involved only suffered minor injuries. And that's it from the DHK News this Wednesday night. Thank you for watching. Take care, stay safe, enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.